This book, Vivek, it is much more than what your blurb promises. Usually, what happens, the blurb promises and the book underdelivers. But in your case, the blurb makes a fascinating promise and the book gives much more.
Okay, so hi, my name is Desmond, and welcome everyone to the book launch of The Secret of the Stolen Idols, which is organized by Loxhill Hall Publishing and the Book Bakers. Before I introduce you to the guest of honor, let us welcome our panelists for today. First on the list is one of my favorite authors, and the reason why I have started reading a lot of books. He is India's top horror author, Mr. Neil De Silva. Next on the list is another author who has written multiple books, such as The Legend of Amarpali, Love on Three Wheels, Where the Rainbow Ends, and many more. He is Mr. Anurag Anand. Next on the list is someone who has been writing for more than a decade. One of his books is Fear of God. He is Mr. Sai Chandravada. And now, let us all welcome the guest of honor, Mr. Vivek Chaturvedi, the author of The Secret of the Stolen Idols. Welcome, Mr. Vivek, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you very much, Desmond. Thank you very much.
Yes. And welcome our panelists as well. It's going to be a fun conversation. So my first question to Mr. Vivek is, if you can tell us more about your book and your journey on writing this.
Well, this is a fiction book, and the book I started writing this 5 years back. So it's taken half a decade to get this book on the anvil and out in the open. The book involves it's set in Goa, and its chief character is Guru Raj, who is a part of a clan that worships Betal. So it's a very mystical cult that exists only in the Konkan belt, Goa, the southern Maharashtra, northern Karnataka. So as a child, Guru Raj had seen his temple get armed robbered, and it was a gruesome experience for him as a child. And the main deity and the deity's consort was stolen, and his Guru Raj's father was also killed. So he lived with that guilt of inaction and inability to do anything for a very long time, which naturally has been taken up very briefly in the book. So, but as luck would have it, God has something else for him in his plans. So when he grew up, which is when the book starts, he found remnants of the idol coming in the markets. So he starts a book chase. And naturally, the story is, of course, just about the book chase. But I think the book lives a lifetime of several characters, 10 to 12 characters, and their lifetimes are all within the book. The setting of the book is Goa, and through a very unique perspective, as a non-Goan, having lived in Goa for 30 years. I mean, I've seen Goa as an outsider as well as an insider. And I think I've seen Goa in a manner, and the way it has transformed from a very forlorn hippie destination to what it really is today. And I've tried to bring my information, my knowledge, my experiences in the book through all the characters, all of whom are very dear to me. So generally the book is to be classified as a mystery and as a very action-packed thriller, but it is backed by a lot of information, a lot of knowledge for people who are interested to understand Goa. A very different book, which other books about Goa, whether it's Paul William Roberts or even Shantaram, which who wrote about Goa quite a lot. So I tried to make a parallel in terms of their writing style and expanded only on a narrow landscape of Goa. And so that's the USP of the book. Goa, as well as a mystical theory and a tradition which is suddenly now evaporating from Goa. Betal is no longer generally worshipped as a standalone deity, which is what it was. Or as with so many other gods, even Betal has been subsumed within the Hindu pantheon and has been reduced in ranks to the chief of Shiva's Bhoot army. So the original character of Betal is now gone from Goa. You will find temples dedicated to Goa, only about 3 or 4. And remaining all general temples will have a statue of Goa, of Betal rather, right at the outside. It's reduced to a complete soldier instead of a sultan.
Yes. The book is really interesting because when Mr. Sohail from the Book Bakers told me about the book launch and he told me this book is set in Goa, I was really excited because I am from Goa and the storyline is also amazing. So this leads me to the next question to Mr. Vedant. As a reader, what did you like about the book and what are the interesting parts of it?
I think that's the standard "you're on mute" that we've all become also familiar with lately.
Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, we can hear you, but I don't know if Vedant can hear.
Okay, if anyone else, Miss Anurag, if Anurag can answer this question, it'll be better.
Sure. I can take that. And we were just discussing, in fact, Neil was also mentioning that, and I'm sure you'd like to add on. I think what Vivek has done, and many congratulations for that, is that he's come out with a very stellar debut. It's a book that's complete. So the storyline is gripping, the characters are very well edged out, and most importantly, the language. So for a reader who loves reading, you would really get absorbed in the story. The descriptions are so precise that it brings alive every scene in the book. So I loved reading the book, and I'm sure the readers who pick it up would also echo the same sentiments. Neil, would you want to add to it? I'm sorry I stole your thunder on the language piece.
No, because I've got a lot of things to say as well. How it exactly happened is how I came to know about this book was when Suhail pinged me out of the blue and said that, not out of the blue, because Suhail and I keep chatting about a lot of things, but then he never tells me about the books of the other authors as much. But when Vivek's book was to come out, Suhail made it a point to have a conversation with me, and he told me that you need to check out this book because we have, I have represented so many books, but out of the book, this is something that I know you will like, because Suhail knows my tastes, of course. He's my agent. So Suhail told me that this is something that you will definitely like. You give it a try, and I'll also tell Vivek to get in touch with you. So then I was also intrigued that what is this kind of book that Suhail for the first time is talking to me about, a book of one of his authors. So I said, yes, definitely I'll take a look at it. If you say that it is something that I should take a look at, I will take a look at it. And that's how then I got my copy of The Secret of the Stolen Idols. And I jumped into the book, saw expectation, because that is how we usually must do. But then Suhail had already told me a few things about the book, why it should hold my interest. And two things that he told me really stood out. The first was when he told me about the legend of the Betal cult. So, that I have, those who have read my works also, people know that I have got a penchant for the supernatural. So that's where my interests lean towards. Even in horror, I write a lot about supernatural. Like I wrote about the Yakshinis and the Pishach and all. And Betal was something that, it's a no-brainer that it has to fascinate Neil De Silva. So then I also did a little bit of research on what's the Betal cult, because my knowledge of the Betal till then was limited to, the sketchy details that we know about Betal that everyone knows. And of course, it was a little more than the Vikramoy Betal thing, but I knew that there is such an entity and what's it. But that was one of my starting points to get into the book. And the second selling point for me was that the book was set in Goa. So Goa, I'm not from Goa, I'm a Mangalorean, but Goa is the kind of a second home. Like it's a place before this pandemic situations hit us. We would go there every year, once or even twice at times. Goa is also my favorite destination to just go for writing trips, which I do often. So I know Goa a lot as an outsider, and I am in love with the state. So this is also something that I wanted to know more. So any book that is set in Goa invariably lands on my bookshelf. So there were two factors, and with this I started reading the book. And when I did that, now that is where I started to understand why Suhail was actually telling me to read this book, because it goes much beyond the initial intrigue value. This book, Vivek, it is much more than what your blurb promises. Usually what happens, the blurb promises and the book underdelivers. But in your case, the blurb makes a fascinating promise and the book gives much more than that. It's
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Fantastic plot. At times you will get this feel of a Dan Brown-esque novel, because that is the kind of fast-paced writing that he has. But it's Vivek just told me that the book, some of his readers have told him that the book is verbose, but I disagree completely, because what is actually happening is Vivek is using exposition in the book, and with the help of the history of Goa that he has laid bare in the pages, blends seamlessly with the story. So that is very good storytelling, and for a debut author to do that kind of thing, which is to blend fiction and non-fiction, it is not an easy task. So it looks like, Vivek, you have got your tuning set correctly in the first book itself, and from here the only way to go is up. So as a reader, I'm completely happy that I invested my time in how much ever I could read of the book. Yeah, I haven't gotten around to reading it entirely yet, but whatever I have read of it, it has hooked my interest, and now I'm at a stage like I need to make time to finish the book. So that itself is a very commendable achievement for a debut author, and you hardly look like a debut author. If anybody picks this book without knowing you, I'm sure they won't be able to tell that this is your first book.
Thank you. Coming from you, it's a big deal. You and Anurag both.
I'm very happy to say these things because it's a book that deserves the praise.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Neil, we'll be waiting for your review on this book because I'm following Mr. Neil from quite some time. And I enjoy reading his stories because he is the first author we actually started reading. For many people, they don't know I'm not a reader. I should not read at all. But Mr. Neil De Silva, he encouraged me to read, and I'm enjoying reading right now.
At this point, I would just like to say, Vivek, of course, it's your day today, but it reminds me of the time when I wrote my debut novel, Maya's New Husband, and that also had the Aghori cult in it. So there were a lot of parallels here. That I also wrote the book, and there was this Aghori cult, and it did fantastically well. So I'm sure I can see that same spark, even maybe at that same level, that same spark in this book as well, that it has to. So if to the people who have read my works and are listening to us, if you have read Maya's New Husband, I'm totally sure that you're going to also like reading The Secret of the Stolen Idols, because it is the same kind of tone, and you will see Goa in a way that you have not seen before. So
that is true. That part I can also agree with. Thank you.
But Vivek, I have a question to you now. Since I am a new reader, okay, this book has 2 or 3 very different writing styles. Don't you think you have exhausted many styles in one book? What do you feel about this?
Well, you're partially correct. I mean, what I've tried to do is I've divided my writing style in several chapters completely differently. So if I'm going very simple, lucid in 1 or 2 chapters, I'll continue that for 2 or 3 chapters and suddenly come with a very high vocabulary, complex, grammatical constructed chapter, which will be shorter. It will be a 2-page or a 1-page chapter. And then I'll again come back to a normal chapter. After 1 or 2 chapters, I'll pace up. So I'll reduce the size of the paragraphs, reduce the size of the dialogues, reduce the size of the sentences, avoid using high difficult words. So this is the way I've tried to pace, keep building up the crescendo, then relieving the tension from the book, then again building up. I've got 5 or 6 chapters in which actually you get comic relief also. So 2 or 3 different styles I agree with. Sparing, I think, for 1 chapter on Vishnu Sahasranam. I think generally the chapters are very simple English, maybe with slightly elevated levels of vocabulary and complex grammar, but still within a range. Talking of styles of writing, I think there are still many things that we can experiment with. In the general, if you read the whole book, you will realize that my general narrative style is using the ubiquitous observer and narrator only. So trying to explore in the first person or third person is very simple. first and even in fact second person, writing in second person like Jhumpa Lahiri and a lot of people have done. So I would like to experiment that maybe in the subsequent books. So while I've written 2 or 3 different styles, gone deep in 1 or 2 chapters, made it difficult. The opening preface itself is written from the God's words. Betal himself has spoken. So it is very different style, but as a classification within English, I think it will be normal only. So there are a lot of other experiments that I will do eventually. Make it tougher. I don't want to write a very simple lucid book which is meant for the masses alone. Let it be a good book, a good quality writing, good information, knowledge, description should be very adequate. There should be realism in them. Real life experiences should be filled in. And then if the book is accepted, I'd like that more than writing a very simple book which is widely accepted and sold.
That's a very interesting.
I want to write a very simple lucid book which is meant for the masses alone. Let it be a good book, a good quality.
I think so. Someone has your Facebook.
Knowledge,
Can you just shut down the Facebook? It's lagging.
Realism in them, real life.
Yes, yeah. So that's a very interesting way, if you go to see, since it's your first book and then you have different styles. So the next question goes to Anurag. See, Anurag sir, being a fiction author yourself, the setting of Vivek's book is very different from the regular urban life that we know. How easy or difficult is it to write a story that is set in an alternative world that we live in?
Well, to write any story is not easy. So penning down about 70,000-80,000 words, it requires a fair degree of passion, commitment, patience, perseverance, all of it put together. And as I'm sure all my co-panelists would agree, it's an effort in its own right. However, if you're talking about stories that are set in a parallel dimension to the one that we are familiar with, be it in time or space or geography, it becomes that much more difficult because what I do with my writing is when I'm writing, I try and get into the skin of the characters, try and imagine the situation around me, and then I try and pin it down, right? So if you're writing something which is set in the contemporary world that we are all familiar with, the flow comes pretty naturally. So you can simply imagine yourself there and start writing. Whereas when you're looking at a different dimension, you need that much of peace of mind. You need to dive that much deeper to be able to do justice to the setting and to the subject. And of course, there's a lot of research that goes into creating that familiarity for yourself as an author to be able to do justice to such subjects. So I would say, writing no story is easy, but something that's in a parallel dimension, it does take that little bit extra.
Yes, Anurag, that was really nice. I would just like to ask Mr. Vardhan, what are the interesting parts of the book? You must have read the book, so if you can tell us from a reader's point of view.
Okay. Thanks. Hey, congratulations, Vivek. It's a wonderful,
Thank you.
wonderful book. And how I came across this book is very interesting. So Suhail called me up and said, "Hey, there's this new author who's written this book, and would you like to endorse it?" And then put up a picture of the book along with your image on Instagram, etc., and so forth. And I said, sure, but I'd like to read the book first. So I got the book and I read it. And as soon as I think I even I told Vivek this, I don't remember, I think I did, but the first chapter in which Betal himself speaks to you, and the wonderful way in which he had presented it, it completely blew me over. Seriously, for a first-time author, that was very, very good, grasp of how you want to present your work. Most of the authors that we see in the market, there are a lot of proliferation of authors today. They don't. We find that the presentation skill sets are a little missing. And then you read the first chapter, the second chapter, you completely lose interest in the book. The first chapter completely blew me over. I mean, Vedal talking. And the second point here is that, okay, so that's about how I started getting that complete interest in the book. The second part is that I come from the south of India, correct? So in south of India, you have this concept called the Gram Devta, the deity of that particular village or that particular region.
Correct.
As opposed to the Trinity or as opposed to all the other gods and goddesses in the Hindu pantheon. So this Gram Devata is very critical, and they all pray to the Gram Devata, and they are very, they do a lot of homage to things, and the Gram Devata are supposed to protect. And the concept of the Veda was also similar to that. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It's same, absolutely same.
So that resonated with me. The fact that I could identify with that situation. Yes. So when you're talking about the urban novel and writing the urban stuff, it becomes a lot more easier because people are able to connect. So if you look at my book Agniputra, it also relates to a village, a very remote village, in which there is this unidentified or unspecified energy, which is discovered, and therefore the entire book based on that, and it's based on that folk lore. And that book's got a lot of horror, it's got a lot of quantum physics, etc. and so forth. So I also understand, the way in which he's written it and what he has taught when he's written it. So that blew me over. POVs are very important, and I think that characters are very important in a book. The character drives the story. You read the book because you're either affiliated to the character, or you're laughing with or at the character, or you hate the character. In every which way, the character's the centrifugal thing in a book, and the character carries the story forward. The way in which he's presented the characters in this book is brilliant. The way that the different point of views is given to the different characters and their justifications, where you actually start to align with them. That is also something that is very rare to find, and that too in a debut novel. So these are the areas that I think was, to me, very, very enthralling. The language was brilliant. Some may consider it to be a little too wordy or a little too, say, over the top. But let's forgive them. Seriously, Vivek, let's just forgive them. Because
Thank you.
You need to write a book that everybody loves, right? Everybody reads. It's not just for the masses, like you said. And I don't believe in writing for the masses. I believe in writing a story. I'd like to write what I would, or somebody in the audience like me would like to read. So that is my motivation to write books, and it's not done bad for me at all. It's done fairly well. So I think that's a very, very good step to take, and the research you've done here is again very commendable. I believe in research, and I believe in presentation, and I believe in the character taking the story forward. And in all three areas, this book is a 100 out of 100 here. And I really love the way in which he's done it, and a lot of thought has gone into it. I can see that a lot of thought has gone into the research part, and more importantly on the presentation part. And I commend you for it. Yeah, really, hats off, and thumbs up and all that. And I hope the book does fabulously well. And I encourage you to write more books like this. It's really, really interesting to me.
Thank you, Shukriya.
Glad everyone is liking the book. Now this is the best part, which I always enjoy. If Vivek can read something from his book, it will be really exciting for us to hear.
Sure. Well, I have the book with me. So just to read about Yurik. Yurik is one of the very important and crucial characters in the book. So he is introduced on page 27, maybe earlier, but you wouldn't know. So page 27 is his introduction, and Desmond would be able to connect with this chapter slightly, because it is typically out of a Goan house. And Yurik, by the way, lives in Sholin.
Okay. Even I'm from Sholin.
Yeah, that's what. So Yurik, the name of the chapter is the Dilapidated Mansion. So it had always amazed Yurik how his granny could still be alive At 103 years, she looked bloody old, like a fossilized specimen in the State Museum. Her impossibly wrinkled face perfectly concealed her once cherubic, youthful past. For any observer, it was no longer possible to imagine that she had once been a young girl, admired, even courted, and actively sought. The irises of her eyes had long since faded, with the once well-defined circles now hazy grey blots. Each morning, when Yurik would get us steaming tea in her bed, he would look at her, half prepared to expect no breath, no beat, just a lifeless cadaver. But there she was, every morning, simultaneously a smile and a frown, curiously merging near the labyrinthine furrows of her eyes. Yurik still didn't know which was for him, the smile or the frown. He knew she loved morning tea, but had never fully finished off her glass. He knew she loved him, but had not even recognized him for nearly a decade. Her Alzheimer's had eaten through her hippocampus voraciously, feasting on the fast debilitating grey cells. Granny, in fact, could no longer recognize anyone. Well, the chapter is very long, and it introduces Yurik. So just to tell you, what I've done is every character has been introduced with a dedicated chapter, and try to dig deep into his family setting, his childhood, and his inner psyche is brought out upfront. I have not focused so much on how he looks, how tall he is. During the course of reading, you will know how tall everybody is, and what kind of hair they have, and what kind of clothes they wear. But their inner heart, the state of mind, the state of life that they are leading, that has been brought out in every chapter upfront. So generally the remaining physical traits you will come to know, and I feel more or less everybody will imagine the characters the way I have designed them to be. So that is what my effort is.
That's nice. But who's your favorite character in the book, and what inspired you to build them up?
This is a very, very difficult question, because all of the 9-10 characters have a bit of me. I mean, they are alter egos of me in various ways. So somehow I have associated most with one De Cruz, one character De Cruz. Partially, maybe I've known one Mr. Suresh Kumar De Cruz from Kolar Goldfield actually. So somehow that person influenced me. And Suresh Kumar De Cruz is the closest person to my heart, despite the fact that the main protagonist is Guru Raj, who is somebody who I would desire to be like. Guru Raj is somebody I would like to be like. But De Cruz is somebody who I am. So I mean, it's a very difficult range. Within these two ranges are all the other characters. So from experiences, I think I share most with Gazdar, with Johnny Gazdar. I mean, his extreme sports, his skydives, Thailand experiences, and his experiences borderline on risk, borderline on criminal risk, I feel like taking. And from I won't say drug abuse, but from nootropic supplement abuse, it's Ruben. And from addiction of gymkhana and fitness, it has to be Ruben and Guru Raj both. And Lewis for his and my love for Royal Enfield and Harley Davidsons. So each of them, has something of me, and that has been the strength of those characters, as well as the easiest part of me, of the writing experience, because I've been able to relate with each of them so truly that if a character is 100 and 20 or 30 is me, then 60 or 70 is somebody I actually know. So these are all alive people who I actually know. So I think if you know the set very well, and if you know characters very well, and if you have a good tale at the back of your mind, you can actually write very well.
That's nice. Who's your favorite character? You can just select any one.
I think De Cruz. I think De Cruz. I like De Cruz. I like
that's nice. So I would like to ask Neil a question. Being a horror author yourself, how did you like the overall concept of Mr. Vivek's book, since he has also used the cult of Betaal in his story? I think so. You're on mute. This is a mute session, I guess.
I kept it on mute because there was some sound.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, but I'm back now.
Yes.
So the thing is, So this book has a lot of, the flavor of the supernatural. So as I was telling Vivek before the session as well, and supernatural is something where my interests lean towards. And you have taken the Betal cult. This is a somewhat gray area for me. Whenever we take a supernatural cult, when we deal with things like deities and demigods and this regional, what was that term Vadan said, Gram Devta, right?
Gram Devta.
Yes. So when we do that, there is always a kind of, like you do not know how much you should touch, how much you should talk about, and how deep should you go, because there were also the beliefs that are involved and the people's entire structure, the social structure that the deity is connected with. So one thing that made an immediate connect with me was, I have done this twice in my books, with of course the Aghoris in Maya's New Husband, and then with the Yakshini in Yakshini. So in both these places, even I had the same challenge that Vivek had in his book, like how you portray Betal for him in a way that it also evokes fear, but at the same time there is this awe and thrill and a bit of respect as well, the venerability that comes with being a demigod or a deity. For me, this is a horror area. Because what happens is, what is horror? Horror is something that you do not predict. You do not know which way things will go, and the fear of the unknown, as we say. And that fear comes to us, from cults, from clans, because these are really spooky things. I don't know, I should refer to this book known as The Song of Kali, a fabulous book that I read last year. The Song of Kali, set in Kolkata, is also about a clan, or I should say a cult of Kali worshippers, and they are on the dark side, and it is a very spooky book, and it is definitely categorized as horror. It ranks on the horror lists even now sometimes, after so many years. Dan Simmons is the author. So Vivek, I see that kind of spark in your book as well, because that is the horror of the unknown, of these small village deities and their practices and their occult, their mysticism, which is scary to us because we are outsiders and we do not know what actually goes on in that village. For example, ask me to step into Mayong, I'll be scared, because Mayong, I am sure that we know what Mayong is. Mayong is in Assam. It is considered to be the birthplace of black magic in India, or rather in the world. And Mayong is a place where black magic is practiced even today, quite openly. And people don't go to doctors there. If they have any pain or anything, they will go to a kind of tantric who will cure them, and it works because they say that the land has that kind of black magic in it. So this is the kind of thing that scares me. The being an outsider and seeing and experiencing a lore from a small region which we don't understand and we don't know how it works. So one of my goals, or I should say aspirations, is to travel to remote parts of India, because that is where the best horror stories come from. And this you have seen in now Vivek's book, in the Dan Simmons book that I said, and also Agniputra. I haven't read Vadan, but now you have hooked me onto it when you told. So that's the next book I'm going to check out also. So this is the kind of thing that fascinates me, and for me this is a definition of horror. You know how Indian horror is? Indian horror is a blend of mythology. There's a lot of mythology in Indian horror, which whatever you take, if not directly, indirectly, there will always be a Purana Mandir, or there will be a Haveli with a tradition of some gods and deities. So God is always there in horror for us. Our horror is very different from Western horror, because we don't go into the zombie and vampire mode too much, but we go into the horror that comes from our beliefs and practices, our customs. Even the legends that we have are legends that are going on since decades and centuries and stuff. So it has become as much as a belief system. So horror is very intertwined with religion in our country, and that is a space which really needs a lot of exploration. And I was on a panel with some horror experts, some people who have written PhD theses on horror, and even there we had this kind of discussion, like fear is different for different people. around the world as well. Even when you're talking civilization wise, it's different. And for Indians, this is what we believe horror really is. It lies in the mandirs and the havelis and the tehkhanas. I'm talking about the abandoned mandirs because those are scary to go into. I'm not talking about the mandirs that we still pray because that's a place of solace. So this is the kind of thing that works, and that was one of another of the reasons why I picked up the book. And here I'll just also make a comment about Vivek, your reading of the excerpt, because of course I have read that part, and the way you read it, I'm sure that the audience got a very good sample of the kind of language that Vivek has used. Because horror is also about language. You can write the same thing in a different kind of structure, vocabulary, and it transcends to something else. So Vivek has that grasp. So he knows within this one book, he has captured so many different styles of writing, as Desmond rightly pointed out as well. And this was the part which is actually spooky. It creeps you out. So kudos on that.
Thank you.
That's nice. Really, I feel everyone has enjoyed your narration. So the next question is for everyone, because everyone here is an author except me. So this is the thing which I want to know as a reader, because with the number of books written by Indian authors rising day by day, how are Indian books better for us to read as compared to the Western books? And why should people start reading more of Indian books? I would like everyone to answer this one by one.
So let me take this first.
Yes.
Indian books are typically something that you can relate. It could be in your city, it could be in your town, it could be in your state. It could relate to what you're doing at work, or it could relate to how your romance is flourishing, or it could relate to something that is happening in your vicinity. For example, any thriller you write, and Vivek's written a thriller here, is how much you're able to relate to what's happening there. And that's important. And look at the feedback I got for Fear of God. Most of the feedback was, I am sick and tired of this corruption. I'm sick and tired of people breaking traffic rules. I'm sick and tired of people doing this, doing that, taking money for getting even my licenses done. All of this is something that they could relate to, and therefore they could resonate with what the book says. If you read an international author, you might like the story, you might like the writing, but you'll definitely not be able to resonate with what that guy is saying. The background that is woven, his story, etc., will not be something that you could link to. That is possible in Indian writing, with a fiat, with a rider, that Indian authors also need to understand that their competition are not other Indian authors. Their competition are international authors, and the international authors take a large cut of the audience in India, and Indians buy those books as well. And therefore, we have to compete with the international authors and the way they present their books for us to be relevant in the market. That's the rider I'd like to introduce. And along with that, I'd say that it's very relevant for Indians to read Indians and the Indian scenario and how it impacts the whole thing. So that's my take on why it's important to read, or why it makes sense to read Indian authors.
Yeah, well said. It is more relatable. If you go to see for Indians, it's more relatable when you're reading Indian stuff. Yes, Mr. Anurag, you can go ahead.
So I would agree with whatever Vadan has said, but only partly, and I'll focus on the parts that I don't quite agree with him on. So see, the question itself is talking about a problem, right? Indian authors not being able to find the kind of reader base that they should rightfully get. So I don't think there is any Indian author needs that protectionism. We are in our own space capable of writing good stuff, and when you dish out something that your readers want to read, automatically it will find a space for itself and you'll be able to compete against the international authors. And in the end, it's about the consumer's choice, right? So if a reader wants to read a Dan Brown over me, he or she is most welcome to. The problem is a little more deep-rooted than that. The problem is about the reading habit per se. So today, if I look around me, if I look at my friends, people I know, how many people would I know who read at least, say, 20 or 25 books every year? Not too many. Now, given that as a census, if you try and divide it, no matter which way, if you take off the international authors, just keep the Indian authors and try and divide that number of readers, you still would not reach the kind of quantum that you should be reading. So I think the problem is a little more deep-rooted. It is upon us as authors, the entire industry, the system, to try and do what we can to promote the habit of reading. And then this question itself will not remain relevant, because if you have with 1.35 billion people, if you have adequate percentage of readers, well, they can read whatever they want to and you'll still have a market for your writing. So that's my two-bit on this.
So just a quick reply. I fully agree with you in what you're saying. Just a quick reply in terms of statistics. In fact, if you're looking at it, I think more than about 90 or 75 to 80% of the readers in India read vernacular. So then you're left with 20% who read English. Now, people who read English can be, again, another, if you take the 20% as a whole, then out of that, almost about 60 to 70%, I think, are people who read non-fiction. The rest of them read fiction. And then, therefore, your piece of the cake in terms of fiction becomes much more smaller. And then you have also to contend with international authors. So in that context, if you want to remain relevant, so basically I come from there. I completely agree with you that as an author, we must, and as authors, all of us, we must look at promoting reading, and we must find ways, very innovative ways of looking at taking them back from the idiot box to the reading habit, me included. But having said that, we also need to understand how your audience is segmented, and how we need to also penetrate that very limited level of people who would read English and who read English fiction in this country. That's the only quality.
Completely agree. As I said, there are parts that I agree with, and I focused on the other half. So yeah. By your point.
I feel the pain of this. I can feel the pain of this, because we have Indian authors here and we don't get.
A lot of work went into that research. Yeah, I mean,
I know. I can feel the pain of this, and I agree with both of you, in fact, because this is a kind of debate that can go on, and the points are valid on both sides. Whatever Badan said, whatever Anurag said, it's all correct, and that's true. Now, my take on this is, we are right. It is incumbent upon us authors to also write good stories, because I do not want to dictate to my reader or to any reader what to read. It should be the reader's choice. It is always the buyer's choice. We go to a supermarket, we want to buy anything, let it be a brand of soap. Now, nobody can force me to buy an Indian soap if I want to buy an international soap, correct? So it is also the same thing, because I am very sorry to liken this to a product, to liken a book to a product. But for the buyers, mostly that is also the mentality that is at work. Now, what should we do as Indian authors to get more readers? We are already doing this. The process has already begun. We have to give them better and better books. We have to understand the pulse of the audience. And all of us are doing that in our capacities. Now, yes, there is this one kind of sorrow, one kind of agony, that despite giving them fabulous books, and every author thinks that my book is akin to a Stephen King novel. Everyone thinks that. I definitely think that my book, I'm the next Charles Dickens. Okay, so everyone thinks that, but at the same time, the author may not, the readers may not see it that way. And so we have to take some lessons from that and see what other readers actually looking at. Why are they reading the international authors more than Indian authors today? Which again is changing. This also I'll tell you because of my, the analysis from the reading community. What share of readership I had in 2015 in the Indian market was in Maya's New Husband was read more in the US than in India in 2015. But today what is happening is it is completely flipped. Today it is Indian readers who are buying my books more, and the US market has shrunk. So the thing is, we are penetrating, it is happening, and I think in the next 5 years, we are right now riding the cusp. And in the next 5 years, the Indian readers will understand that the Indian books are good. The reason is also because our books are being translated to shows. We are getting better penetration. We are getting made into podcasts, and there were so many other avenues that our stories are going out as, which was not happening before. If even we look at this historically, why this international reading started in India. It started because before Chetan Bhagat, there were no Indian authors worth their name. I mean, there were the Shobades and Khushwant Singhs and Ruskin Bonds, but they were few and far in between. Therefore, the Indian readers who wanted lots of reading, masala for them, they went to, they discovered Jeffrey Archer and Dean Koontz and people like that, because they wanted to keep their reading going on. And that has stayed. But through the decades, after Chetan Bhagat came, and then all the other best-selling authors came, they captured the mass market, and then people understood that, okay, Indian authors are good. Now, Indian authors can write, that is established, but now we have to show them that we can write well. And this is a collective effort, and I'm so happy that an authors group is discussing this, because it's only when we come together. Now today, why are we here to cheer for Vivek, and why was I there at Vadhan's book launch as well at Fear? That was Fear of God. Now this is because we have to promote each other. This kind of talking as a community makes the readers also understand that there is something going on in the Indian literary scene. And so I look at it very optimistically, and I am battling with also my genre being a niche genre, that is horror. So even whatever mathematical calculation, wizarding genius Vadhan presented, from that share, 1% is my share, because I write horror. So
absolutely.
So my share is almost nothing. But even in that, I have found the toehold, and I am riding that train. I will reach Churchgate finally. So that is still happening. So it is difficult for me, but I am going to do that kind of thing. So let us all get together, Vivek, and this book is your grand welcome into the author's world. Our problems now yours as well. So let us all fight them together. This is our fellowship of the ring. We have to defeat Sauron.
Absolutely. We are in it together.
I'll be Legolas.
Very well put, Neil. Actually, very, very well said. Very well said. And, you say 1% is horror, which is a very large 1%, as compared to the thriller authors who don't have even that 1%. So I think that's, basically, it's very important that us authors should come in. I've seen this happening, in the larger reading communities in the West, where, you even have authors speaking. For example, you have R.R. Martin and Stephen King speaking. You have, Dan Brown and many authors speaking on stage, in libraries, in universities, and promoting reading and promoting the culture. And I think that we as authors should also, seriously look at doing that sort of thing in India. I'm very interested in doing something like that, because it creates an awareness, not only about book as a product, but about the author as well, and it makes a lot of sense for us to give our point of view in everything in terms of the literary world.
And for one thing, I'll tell you, for books like ours, the genres that we write, all of us here, our readers, it's difficult for us to find readers, number one. But the thing is, once we find readers, they become our dedicated followers. So this is what I have seen through the journey of my 15 books. So the people who have, thank you, Desmond. So the people who have read one book of mine will invariably take the next. So it's not like they will give up. So that is how the readership grows, and that is people today know Vadhan, people today know Anurag Anand, then me, and now Vivek. This is how it is. It's going on. The juggernaut is rolling. Now we have to just.
I remember Neil's post on for writers by authors, where you had said there is no bigger marketing strategy for your first book than writing your second book.
Absolutely.
And that's absolutely perfect.
Absolutely. People have to see that you are consistent, that you are in it for the long game, because there were a lot of people who are writing just for their resume. Like I will write a book, I will put it in my bio data that okay, I wrote a book, to get their name on a cover, to fulfill an ambition of theirs or something like that, or just to impress girls, because even that is happening among the younger people. People need to see that you are in it for the for the long game.
So Neil, the one takeaway from me from whatever you said, like it's obviously not the impress girls bit, but it's more on we as a generation of authors are at the cusp of change, right? And hence the agony. But I'm sure the way things are progressing, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not just and that's where I think Vivek, your book, it's a fantastic read, well packaged. Like even your publisher, earlier I remember 5-10 years back when I would pick up books by Indian authors, the quality of the book itself would not really give you that
the physical
feeling of wanting to read it. Yeah, so it's a fantastically packaged product, and as long as we keep doing this, I think we will reach there. That 1% that Neil is talking about will help him perhaps build another bungalow somewhere in Mumbai or Goa.
Absolutely, that is definitely good. And I'm a very optimistic person, Though I write horror and I kill my people when they are hoping for release, I do that in my books. But in real life, I always know that I'm reaching the pot at the end of the rainbow. I'm doing that.
Brilliant.
This was a nice discussion.
And yes. So, Mr. Vivek, what are your future plans? Have you already started writing your next book or no?
I have actually. I've got a structure ready, and that's a fiction book again, because my primary love resides in fiction. But I'm also working on a non-fiction. I mean, I've got quite elaborate experience in dealing with entrepreneurs and managerial economics and financing. So one nice, experiential book on non-fiction on entrepreneurs, on what is the way forward within the economy of India. But the fiction book will, I think, it should be ready in another 12 to 14 months. So that's a nice book. Yes. It's going to be actually, I'll try and post some competition to Neil Bhai. It will be a horror. It will be a horror.
I believe the more the merrier. And in terms of...
I agree. That 1% we have to expand. So we have to expand that 1% to...
What happens is my readers will read you, your readers will read me.
Absolutely.
So I totally. Symbiosis is needed for the kind of genres that we write. And horror authors, the readers, as I say, they are, they want books, they want to consume books.
Correct. I sense that actually. I sense that.
Keeping the genre alive. It's all about keeping the genre alive. So in the beginning, initial days, I did not understand this. When I started out as an author, so I was promoting myself. But then I understood that promoting myself is not the way to go about this. I have to promote the genre. I have to build a kind of, following around the horror genre. And that is when I started building that following, and when I started promoting other horror authors as well, posting shout outs, recommending their books, that is when the entire thing became a kind of a campaign. And now people know that there were many horror authors in India, because before my time I don't think we knew about there being any horror writers in India.
Absolutely. I followed you for so many years, and I know that for sure.
Yes. So one or two people we knew. That is what I know. But the thing is about that's why the moral of the story is we have to shout out to each other. And I'm also telling this to all the people who are listening to us today. the other, because many of you are readers, many of you are authors, all of you are literature enthusiasts, whoever is listening to us.
Connected.
You need to give us this kind of shout out. If you like a book, do go and post a review, talk about it in whatever capacity that you can, whichever book it is. Do not just read and let it go. You always talk about a book, because we need that. We authors are not very rich people, except perhaps Vadan. I'm not sure of it. So I've been told.
Why am I being?
I don't know. So I've been told. But the thing is, we need all this kind of free publicity that we can get, and this is not just free publicity. This is the kind of publicity that actually works. So even with Vivek's book, please do go read it, and after reading it, do not just keep it on the shelf without first posting a small review. It can be even a 2-liner review, but it will make a world of difference to somebody like Vivek, because I remember when it was my first book, each and every review, I cherished it. Even the negative reviews I read so many times, and I got a lot of them. So the thing is, I kept reading. I still do even today. So that works for us. And again, just before winding up, because I know that Desmond is now itching to stop this session, just before winding up, I would publicly like to express my thanks to the book bakers, because it is they who are pushing this envelope of the Indian authors, which is what
yes
was right.
They're doing a superb job. Sohail and
Absolutely.
So
I
the
fully
book bakers
endorse
have
that.
this knack of finding out where the good authors are in India, and then giving them that publishing foothold, so that their books are they see the light of day. And Suhail, he also discusses the subjects with you, the themes with you, and he knows what kind of things might work.
And I think being an author himself, he comes with that extra edge of understanding exactly what goes through inside the head of a debut author or wanting to get published author, and that really helps. Completely echo your thoughts.
After so many years in this, also he's exactly, I think, the way he would have been in the start. He's just got a heart of gold.
He was the same friendly, candid kind of guy that he is now. He's not changed one bit, and I don't think he will change, because your inherent nature is what dictates who you are. So that I don't think will ever change in him or in any of us, for that matter.
Sohail is like the superhero for everyone.
Yeah,
at least for me, he is.
Everyone. So now let's show the book on the screen, and whoever is listening or watching to this, you need to take a screenshot right now and share it on your social media account. So this is the way we can promote all the authors. So now if you guys can show us the book.
I have my copy right here.
Yes, Mr. Vivek.
Yes, here it is.
Everyone, please take a screenshot. Whoever is watching, I have clicked a photo. I will be sharing this as well. So yes, Mr. Vivek and everyone, it was really, really nice talking to all of you all. Do you all have any last message to Vivek? Anyone?
Vivek,
Keep at it, and keep writing. You're doing a wonderful job. I loved your book, and hope to read a lot more like this.
Thank you very much. Thank you, James.
Yes, Vivek, keep writing in the same tone, in the same voice, but keep evolving as well, that will invariably happen, because we authors will never be the same. But what you have already put out there is also something that you'll be proud of 10 years later, mark my words. Like most of us authors, we would go back to our works and feel that there can be improvements. You might feel that you could have done better, but then you will see that you were almost there even at that time when you started out, which is what really matters. All the best.
Thank you.
From my side to Vivek, fantastic job done with the book. Obviously keep writing, look forward to reading more from you, but do find a bit of time to take that pause and bask in the satisfaction of what you've doled out. And also one nugget of wisdom there, all of us, we write fantastic books, we put in a lot of effort, our sleepless nights, and the sweat that goes behind creating such a book. Do spend at least a part of it in ensuring that your readers get to know about the book, because it deserves it, and I think you owe it to your creation. So all the best.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
I second that. Not to be a shy author, you have to talk about your creations. There is nothing to feel ashamed about promoting our books. So we should talk about it. That's how our readers will come to know what we have written.
That's very
yes.
I'll take all those points.
And if anyone wants to buy the book, where they can buy the book from?
Amazon as of now. We'll probably be launching on Kindle shortly. So,
Okay.
Amazon and Pustak Mandi.
Okay, so whoever's listening, I will leave the book link in the comments so they can just go click the link and buy the book. So thank you everyone for coming. It was really an amazing session and we hope to meet once and we can have a lovely conversation.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Desmond, fantastic job with hosting us all
Yes,
for this
yes.
session as well. Thank you.
Thanks,
you so
Desmond.
much.
Thanks. It was very well done.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much.